G'day everyone, welcome back to another Shady Casters video. I'm Harry. Joining me today, very special guest, all the way from the west coast of the United States, LA, Evan. Old world legend, Evan, I should say.
Yeah, I've been staying legendary, and I'm trying really hard not to do an Australian accent to mock you.
You can, I would love to hear it.
Good day, mate. Okay.
Yes.
And
that was good. I like that.
Yeah. Well, you put pressure on me to have one of my random outburst intros. So we're talking about comp, right?
Comp.
We're talking about what
Today.
What things are bad. Why does this exist? You're making my head hurt. These are all things that I think people care about because the quality of your gaming experience really comes from whether you and your opponent have the game you want to have, or whether the other person shows up without, a list that matches what you're trying to do, or the models aren't painted. In fact, I kind of just recently did a recording of a video with Mike about this, about how do you make sure that your expectations for a game match the other person? Well, comp is one way to do that, especially with strangers.
Yep. And that was, we wanted to get you on the video, particularly today, because we wanted to see your insights on firstly meta, I guess, as a broader sort of topic, but yeah, also definitely comp and how that affects, I guess, meta and how people play the game. Because we know that
definitely. Well, it's not just about the comp and the hard and fast rules. I found, for example, that even with very limited restrictions at an event that you call a narrative event, and that doesn't reward, okay, this person got the most kill points, they therefore get a trophy. You see people take very, very different lists in that kind of environment. So I think I have probably more data points than a lot of people for how that might play out with your real player base, who are people who are going to react to these environments.
Yeah, and I think, I guess too, what we have spoken about, even if you do have some form of restrictive comp on a tournament, let's say, and the expectations may be there for how the game is gonna be, but people still break that. People still find a way to work around the comp and still take the dirtiest list or the most competitive list they can. So it's something that's like always evolving and always changing, as we know, as well as when the game changes with every FAQ or errata pack.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's very difficult to write a Games Workshop Warhammer style game where it is not advantageous to figure out what's good about your army and then take like a massive amount of that one thing, skewing into my guys are totally invulnerable to damage. My guys shoot you from far away. My guys are really, really fast. Like if you just pick one thing and you just spam the crap out of it, it tends to be very effective because the mechanics in the game don't necessarily have a way to reward you for being like more balanced or more, combined arms.
Yeah.
Especially when the game is just kill your opponent and don't die. If those are the rules, then there's no reason to not be an unkillable, undead Death Star, or my whole army's a gun line and I shoot you, or I just fly around and you never touch me, right?
Yeah, which is a really good point you make there. For those watching that might not be aware, on Evan's channel, the Owls, the Old World Legends, they just did do a what's the word for the tournament you just did?
It's an RTT.
No, the narrative event.
The grand
narrative event.
The grand narrative. So that's what we called it when it was essentially like a GT style situation, but it was a 2-day narrative event with teams. We played with essentially the forces of fantasy on one team versus the Ravening Hordes on the other team, with the many of the kind of unaligned factions basically get paired into whichever team needs somebody to help make the numbers even. At first, it seemed like the numbers were going to be, there's going to be 15 or so Forces of Order players and like 7 Forces of Destruction players. And I was like, oh crap, we're going to really have a hard time pairing people. And then it started to swing the other way by the time that the event came, and we had almost like 30 people on day 2. So it was absolutely great. And
I think
I actually forget your question. So
well, I was making a point of the fact that you were sort of talking about how like a Games Workshop game is just like kill as much as you can and don't get killed. But for those watching, it's a really good watch where Evan and Mike talk about the narrative event, because the win scenario is very different with how you guys designed it.
Sure.
Yeah. and it's a really cool concept of the game that we don't see very often, particularly in Australia. We don't see that type of event or that type of sort of creativity in how the game is won or lost, so to speak. So it's a really cool watch.
Just to give you a quick breakdown,
Yeah.
what the way we do it is that each scenario has laid out different ways to get war contribution points. Those are similar to battle points, but recently my missions usually have around 5 points you could earn, where the primary mission is to get like 3 war contribution points. Then every individual table has a different secondary. So sometimes it's like go rescue some villagers from the 2 houses that are on the table, or occupy the tower that's in the middle of the table for at least 3 turns. And the secondary is usually something that should be very easy for both players to achieve. It's not exclusive to each other. And then there's 1 point available if you get at least 1,000 traditional victory points. So if you kill enough stuff from the other person's army, and it's not 1,000 more than the other person. It's not a differential. It's just, did you get 1,000? That's it. And this then essentially means there's no reason to not let your guys die. There's not any reason to be like a points denial list in this kind of format.
Yes.
It's all about scoring the objectives, and then you just get some kill points if you get 1,000, which, by the way, isn't that hard to do if you just, kill the general or get some banners. In the vast majority of cases, it's basically just back of your hand math. Did most of the stuff die? Great. We both got the 1,000 points there.
Yes. Yep.
But the primary is you've got baggage trains to protect. You've got strategic locations to guard for at least this number of turns, that kind of thing. And so 80% of the points just come from doing some kind of an objective with a scoring unit. That's it. And then only 25 to 20% comes from killing stuff.
Which is really sort of fun concept to think about. If you can sort of push some units up the board, you have to be strategic. But I guess if something gets sort of killed quickly, there's not like I just lost 300 points sort of thing. It's
well, in a traditional I kill you and then I don't die game, what happens is any alpha strike where I can hit you with a lot of damage very, very quickly, even if I have to burn a bunch of like 1-use-only items, or use up my 2, for example, using the Cathayan cannon that fires twice in the first round. You just do that 3 times on all of them, right? I alpha strike you so hard that for the rest of the game you've got barely anything left, and now my snowball starts rolling faster and faster down the hill because I've got more troops than you. You have less stuff to hurt me back with. And this is something that 40K struggles with, and the only answer they come up with is, let's put a bunch of L-shaped impassable walls all over the place.
Yeah. So you can't just shoot everything first turn.
Right. Why don't you just make a balanced game instead? That's my opinion.
So we did have the 2 RTTs on Saturday.
Yes.
Now, again, for those that watch Evan's channel, the Old World Legends, you guys do talk about, or definitely Mike talks about a lot, how you like to try and play the game the way that the game writers intended, the way that Games Workshop intended, and you try not to sort of change comp, or you try not to add any comp in, so to speak, which is something that we do. I guess we have been starting to do a lot in Queensland in particular, South East Queensland in Australia. We've started to really change up the comp and sort of almost like change our meta, or attempt to change our meta by doing so.
Sure. And then we're going to go through kind of the kinds of things you guys have tried. I can tell you the things that I've tried. For example, we didn't necessarily change comp in terms of, orcs and goblins get to have 200 extra, points in their army or anything. By the way, I don't think necessarily solves anything. I will explain that in a little bit.
Yep.
But what we did try is things like, before the Mashed Plague Egg came out, for about 6 months, I was writing missions that I called the Gleaming Pennant scenarios, which were very similar, except that they focused around units that had banners as opposed to being in core. And so if you had a banner, you could contest objectives. And it was also about, the objective control was about having a certain number of units within the control radius as opposed to who was closest to the center. And what this led to was quite a lot more infantry blocks being taken, even if they only had like 1 rank of attacks to fight with and all that other negatives, just because they had rank and file guys who could stand there and be next to the objective. And then you had more of these kind of fights where now you had toughness 3, 5-up armor safe guys being able to fight against each other instead of having no viable target on the table to fight against.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll talk about so the tournament we had here in it was in Kingaroy, so a town just north of where I live in Toowoomba. At Starkey's house, he's the one with the really cool games room where he holds the tournament in his massive man cave. So yeah, Battle of the Bastards. What we've started to use in South East Queensland, or the first one to bring it out was TATComp, or the Tabletop Association of Toowoomba. The guys there, not myself, I shouldn't include myself because I didn't do any of the hard work, but they essentially, for our GT that's coming up in April, PhilCon, they did a comp pack that sort of resembles, or it's very much related to the Square Base tier comp system, though it's changed a little bit.
Yes.
So this is the list restrictions that we use. On top of that, the difference between the two other tournaments, the two RTTs that are the one that just went on Saturday and the one that's coming up in March, they allow special characters, whereas the GT in April does not allow special characters. So that's the only two sort of differences in the tournaments, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. And that's just
that's an interesting one, because that used to be a really common comp restriction, especially because special characters used to be kind of nuts. The vast majority of the ones now aren't that great, and some of them are very critical to basically the identity of the lists. Like Miao Ying is kind of critical to playing Cathay as anything other than a gun line.
Yeah.
And then, Ogdra's Swamp Digga is very critical to playing Troll Horde at all. So it's interesting to talk about them, for sure.
Yeah, and yeah, I feel the same as sort of what you've mentioned there. I think that most of them are not broken. They're pretty much like, if you could talk about many of the special characters that are pretty benign, I suppose, but there are those few that could probably break the game a little bit. I think definitely with the GT, the PhilCon, the guys were speaking about the reason that they didn't want to allow special characters was because the renegade armies don't get it.
Don't have them.
Yeah. So they wanted to even the playing field. They want to make they definitely want to make renegades more viable. They want to make them more more takeable in tournaments.
Sure.
So I guess that was one of them. So
yeah, not
really many.
No matter what you do, we were going to keep getting Armors of Infamy stuff for everyone else.
Yep.
And demons are going to continue to have no access to magic items, regardless of if the latest Arcane Journal comes out and says every army can use these. Well, demons and dwarves still can't, right?
Yeah.
Which is, of course, a bummer. And I think that even if they were fully supported, Games Workshop still often seems to forget to go through their head. Okay, we have 17 factions. Does any individual faction get a big feel bad out of this individual ruling? They don't necessarily do that, I think.
They definitely don't. They do. Yeah, it was obvious when they first released Cathay. It's more just about how can we make this army really playable and really cool so that people want to buy it, I suppose, is the...
They gave them all the High Elf rules.
The 8th there.
Everybody hated High Elves in 8th edition because they had so many bullshit rules like Banner of the World Dragon. And then they
Strikes
said,
first.
We're going to take all of those away from High Elves and give them all the Cathay.
Yeah. That's whatever sells. So the other main one in the list restriction is that we changed. Again, I should say they changed because I didn't do the hard work, as I said. But extremely common faction magic items can only be taken once.
Fair.
The obvious ones there being Ring of Jet, which is now...
but that was pre-FAQ.
Pre-FAQ. So I think there are some changes now that the FAQs come out. And I guess more like the Opal amulet from the High Elves for the 2-up ward save. Those were sort of the main ones that I think they looked at and sort of thought, oh, they're a bit... But the big change in our comp, or the big part of our comp, is the tier system.
Yeah.
So you're obviously, you've seen the square base one and the fact that they go up sort of by the 200 points almost per tier. What do you think
Yeah,
about?
so these tiers on that you guys that your group was looking at are much more reasonable. I kind of think that 200 points at a time is so much that you will see a 2600 point list playing against 2000 points, and even if they are wood elves, it's still going to be very weird, especially because with large number of points you can take a lot of shooting. Like the main problem that a lot of the bad lists have is that they don't have an effective combo to use when the good lists do. And giving them more points doesn't really solve that problem, but it does allow you to shoot so much the other person to death that doesn't matter whether you had no good combos. Like for example, in the RTT that I played in on Saturday, I
Yes.
played against an Empire list, and I play Empire too, so I know this. And I brought a Beastman Bestigor unit with like 30 Bestigor, and everything else in my army got shot completely to pieces. But the Bestigor made it into the front line, killed all of the Halberdiers in one turn because the Black Maul guy helped out. We overran into to an engineer that he threw into my way as a speed bump. He charges me in the flank with greatswords, and even though he's in the flank, I beat him, and I killed 6 greatswords. He killed 2 of my guys, and he lost combat and had to run away. Where I started just overrunning into cannons and crap. So Empire just has no way to out melee fight a good melee army. There's no combo they can do that does that. And so there are certain armies on this list where at a certain thing that they're trying to achieve, they have no hope to compete, right? And that's interesting, at least from a meta perspective. It makes people want to play different armies for sure. But what I think that it unfortunately leads people to do is saying, well, no matter what, I can always shoot you, right? Because if I just take nothing but guns, then I could run away, shoot you, and melee's pointless, so I'll just do all that, right? And that can become very boring if half the arms in the game are just a gun line that runs away and shoots you. I think.
Yeah, and that's something we have spoken about with gun lines. Thankfully, I suppose at the moment in South East Queensland, in particular, gun lines or sort of shooting heavy armies aren't like super sort of ruling the meta. They're very sort of if we do so this particular event, Battle of the Bastards, we had 26 players, and I would say after sort of we did do the list review video, but it was probably only sort of maybe like 2 to 3 sort of heavier shooting armies. And the rest were sort of a bit more like, mixed arms, so like some shooting and some combat. But in terms of the heaviness of the shooting, it wasn't very prominent out of 26 lists. So, but I can see your point there about how the extra points in terms of comp could potentially just encourage some of the weaker lists to just take more ranged damage to hopefully weaken the better armies. But how do you think that sort of fares when you sort of talk about that against our undead armies, for instance? Because we know that like even sort of shooting at undead armies doesn't really achieve much. You have to sort of combat res.
Depends on what you're shooting, right? That's the way I see it, because I think the undead armies can't necessarily out heal the right kinds of shooting. Or you can always just very easily outmaneuver most of the undead armies because they don't have Steed of Shadows. So
that's true.
Infantry blocks are slow.
That's true.
And even with reserve move, they still only go like 8 inches. So the main thing that happens in this game that no one can really fix right now, because it's a core rule problem, is that if you don't have Swift Stride, your charge threat is pathetic. So because of that, everyone if your army has no Swift Stride, you can just like run away and never be caught in combat if you don't want to be. That's pretty much how it works. Your opponent has to consent to fighting in melee combat against non-Swift Stride units.
Yeah. That is by far the biggest letdown since 8th edition.
Yeah, so if you have vampire counts fighting against high elves, if the high elf player has nothing but skycutters and dragons and griffins and eagles, he can just fly around and flee from charges and rally, and then never be in combat with any of the blocks. And if the screaming banshee only has 8-inch range, you might never even be in range of that either. And so you can both sit there not doing anything to each other all game and have a really boring time.
Yeah. Very good point.
Right.
Yeah. So, little bit of a spoiler, I guess, for the local guys anyway. There, I think they are working to sort of following the SRTT, which was the first time that we used this comp. So they are looking to change it up a little bit even since then.
Sure.
And they're potentially looking at another tier, which would be 2,500 points. So an F tier.
Right. So I will say that the tier system also incentivizes anyone who is in the SNA tier that if you take this army and you don't pick the very powerful combo that army has access to, you are now at a dramatically worse disadvantage than otherwise. So I played Beast and Wild Herd on the last weekend, and I brought 30 Bestigor in special. Okay. And I brought only one wizard, and it was Kralmaw. So if I had to play a 2,000 point list that did not have 4 Vile Tides and they were all +3 to cast against someone who had 2,400 points of Lizardmen, I would have quite a hard time.
Yep.
The problem is not necessarily the points costs whatsoever of these units or how much you get to bring with you. The problem is very specific combos that you can take, and if you do, your army supercharges into it's almost as if I had 1,000 more points than you at that point.
Yeah.
And for example, I played against Ed Mirror match of a Wild Herd in my second game on the weekend, and he had 3 naked shamans who have absolutely no items, and they just pick Vile Tide as their spell, and they just cast it with +1 from being near the Hearthstone, +1 for being level 1, and +1 for being near another wizard with almost no consequences. So they all have +3 to cast it. He basically just wiped out 12 Bestigor a turn. So the first turn he took out 12 of them. The second turn he took out 12 more.
Ouch.
And I mean, it's pretty difficult with a unit that if you don't have an ability to fly or have Swift Stride to actually catch these guys, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah, and I totally get your point there. I actually had a game against, and this is on the channel, a battle rep that Aaron and I we filmed live, and I had the High Elves against the Skaven. So it was 2,400 points of Skaven, and I did sort of say, like, I didn't play that game very well, but I had like a less than sort of optimal High Elf list, Warhost, Tracian Warhost list,
Sure.
whereby I didn't have any Woodsmen, and I only had one unit of 10 sisters, so I didn't have like a ridiculous amount of skirmishing and shooting to be sort of ultra competitive, and I only had 1 Star Dragon, so it was, exactly what your point is there. It was less than optimal list, and I went up against a 2,400 point sort of more optimal Skaven list, and I felt like I was completely outnumbered. I was like, I just did not have enough. And I thought that exact thing that you just mentioned is that if I was to go against a 2,400 point optimal Skaven list, I really needed to take a 2,200 point optimal High Elf list. So, yeah, that's definitely something that, and when we first, when Aaron and I first spoke about the comp, and the structure of it, that was the big negative that Aaron sort of flagged. He said, well, in a competitive environment, it just forces everybody to sort of, or it nearly will force most of the lower tier armies to take their absolute best all the time.
Well, and in particular, Skaven's a great example of this. 2,400 points, right? So you have 400 extra points. Do Skaven spend this buying 2 Hellpit Abominations that barely do anything at all? No. What they do is they spend 400 extra points buying several more Chieftains or more Greyseers to stick into the same 50-man Stormvermin block that they fly around the table with Seed of Shadows and then burn a bunch of Warpstone tokens to zap you with whatever the hell. And then and then they just, and so in other words, all you do is give someone more ammunition to put in the same gun. You didn't change the caliber of the ammunition. And I think that I see exactly why this feels intuitive for people. But it really tweaks it on 2 different levels. It makes the Skaven player go, oh man, think about how much more Death Star I could make with those extra points. And on the other level, you make the Creation Warhorse guy go, oh crap, if I don't bring 2 dragons, I'm screwed.
Yeah.
And so you really create a mutually assured arms race with this situation. That's how I see it. I don't think this is bad in theory. It's bad in terms of player psychology.
Yes. And I guess definitely for like, if it's anything to sort of compare to our sort of meta, but I guess it was sort of happening anyway. Like a lot of people were taking some really random lists, and they still do. Again, if you watch the list review, for those who want to sort of see a little bit of the lists that are in our meta, particularly with this comp, but there are some like really random ones that there's a few players that just will always take sort of their own spice. But then I guess the vast majority we were sort of taking heavy hitting sort of net lists anyway, sort of. Again, with a little bit of some adjustments based on what miniatures were available. So it hasn't really changed what we sort of would expect from our sort of tournaments, but it is early days. So, and I think...
I guess the question is, are you trying to change how likely it is for a potentially weak faction to win a game?
Yes.
Or are you trying to change the quality of the game you're going to play regardless of which faction you chose to bring? Those are two different things.
Yeah, well, I feel for how our tournaments sort of operate, and I definitely don't speak for everyone, but I would think it's more just to change how competitive the armies can be across the board.
Okay, so if and that's a really interesting word you use there, because you're talking about competing.
Yes.
Where two armies show up to the same game, and you don't want it to be, oh, I looked at the other person's list. There is no hope whatsoever. Okay, a great example of this. I have Empire Knightly Orders. I bring 2,000 points Empire Knightly Orders. I've got Demigryph Knights. I got Inner Circle Knights. I got regular Knights. And I got like 2 Priests. Cool. That seems all right. My opponent is a Night Goblin player with 9 Fanatics, several Catapults, and a bunch of Squig Hoppers that I can't countercharge against. We don't need to play this game. The ability for Night Goblins to release Fanatics on your opponent's turn means that if I ever get within charge range, they can march 10 inches towards me, wait until it's my turn, and then release Fanatics 3 more inches closer so that I just get absolutely lambasted by them.
Yeah.
Or I can choose to just not even charge, because if you do charge, when people put the Fanatics in your own turn, you get hit by them twice. So that'll be, 6d6 strength 5 hits, right? Because you'll get hit by them twice. Or I could just not charge and let all the goblins charge me, and then what's the hell the point of that? Knightly Order has absolutely zero hope whatsoever fighting that.
Yeah.
Just can't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, and
so 2,400 points against the Night Goblins, 2,000 points. That equation doesn't change.
It's still the same. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, because if they still take 12 Fanatics, I still can't do anything about that.
Yeah. I guess the other thing too that I don't have a slide up here of, but it does. We do the kill point modifier as well. So, I guess with the lower tier armies, even though you might lose extra points because you've got extra points on the board, it doesn't equate to the victory points at the end because you modify that down.
That would be a really good system if certain armies were being segregated against in a general way, which I think some of them are. I think that anything with high weapon skill, leadership, and initiative is a lot of points per model, whereas things that have high toughness, strength, or have just warband, so they don't care what their leadership is, those things tend to be just a lot cheaper. And so you can just clearly see, and we see this in the narrative event too, by the way, that Forces of Fantasy just has a massive disadvantage compared to Ravening Hordes in general.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But Warhammer is not just a game of the Black Orcs with no magic banner, with no spell, with no buff, charge in there and fight against a bunch of Iron Drakes. That's not how the game works. The game is, I've got all these characters that provide a bunch of sweet combos and sweet item combinations, and then I can make certain combos happen almost guaranteed, like the Fnatic one I talked about.
Yeah.
And because those X factors exist, sometimes the X factors are power scaling on a factor of like ×5 or something. Like the amount of damage that goblins do by themselves is much, much less than whenever the Fnatic get released and then start doing more damage too. Or, for example, adding my goblins happen to be able to buy a poison banner, so all their arrows get to become poisoned, whereas all of the Wood Elves have to spend 2 points for that privilege.
Yeah.
Per guy.
Yeah. Yep. So
that's a good example of just how it's not always about, if you just had a couple extra points, then the unfair matchup becomes fair. It wouldn't necessarily be the case. I think that the problem in the game is far more that there are a few specific, very exploitative combos that you can do. And if you focus on banning those things, like for example, if I take Wild Herd Beastmen, but I only have 1 wizard, I don't think that it's necessarily going to be that much stronger than Knightly Order.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. But I guess you get And this is the other thing, the other point that I sort of make with the tiered system, I suppose, is that I guess because because it's just a points adjustment, it still allows you to take whatever you want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the downside. If you say, we don't like these particular 7 things,
yes,
they're too strong, they're not allowed anymore. Well, what about all the players who thought that was really interesting and cool, and they actually bought a bunch of models and built and painted their whole list around that particular theme?
Yeah.
And if you say it's not allowed anymore, what do those people do?
Yeah.
Well, in particular, you see, and you did do this in the comp that you showed earlier, you can easily target any magic item combo because magic items are things that, people just like, they're not like a model, right?
Yeah.
For example, limiting fanatics would be something that you would really potentially take the wind out of the sails if someone wants to play goblins.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But like limiting the number of ring of jets that you can buy is not taking the wind out of the sails of anybody. That's just an item you're putting on there that's making a unit that's supposed to be a melee unit turn into a shooting bunker.
Yeah. And that's I think the real positive why I liked the tier system is exactly that. Because I think of myself too when I was young and playing the game, I was you couldn't just buy models, for a weekend tournament just because someone changed the comp, and you definitely couldn't I never painted them in time. So there were certain events that I just wouldn't go to if the comp was really left field and I had to go out and like buy another chariot or something just to fill points out in my army.
Right.
And I think that's the thing when the guys got together and sort of thought this was the comp that we wanted to really give a good go. That was sort of the main thing, I guess. They just didn't
definitely iterate. I think iterating is the key. Just try something, see what you think.
Yep.
I guess I've just been iterating for a while, especially on the theories of how this works. And I think that it's and you're totally right. You don't necessarily want it to be that someone goes out and paints the army and then now they can't bring it anymore. And that's one of the main reasons why people don't like the idea of, okay, let's just errata that Sea Guard are 9 points per model now instead of 12.
Yeah.
Because what if you had 2,000 points and now you don't have 2,000 points anymore? Well, luckily for us, I think that the main combos that are really insultingly or insufferable are either really obvious, like taking 5 Sky Lanterns. Okay, like you don't need to have 5 in the pre 152 meta, or they are things where it's actually mostly built around like specific magic items or banners that you're all comboing into a single Death Star. Or the third one is I have 5 wizards who all have the same spell, and I'm just going to cast it at you with utter abandon, right? I think those are the 3 things that are potentially the worst thing in the game. And people obviously have a lot of... okay, on Saturday, I was playing in my second game against Wild Herd, and there was a level 1 shaman, a 65-point shaman cast Vile Tide, and he somehow rolled 29 hits. So it's 5d6, right? He rolled 4 6s and a 5 for how many hits?
Ooh.
And this is a 65-point model, does 29 attacks.
I can't help but laugh at that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, my 500-point Vestigor unit does 7 attacks.
You don't have much luck against magic. You seem to always cop maximum hits. So remember in our game,
an interesting thing to say.
I did the. It's like
because you got the fiery convocation.
Yeah, it's like. It's just, it must be just...
To be fair, that's a 1 in 3 that it's going to do a hit marker and then it's going to get all of them.
Yeah.
The Vile Tide rolling 29 hits is much less likely to happen.
Yeah.
Right?
It's just...
Yeah.
It's, but yeah. So what are your thoughts on, excuse me, I guess, your experience on the weekend, even where there was no comp, you just played the game as it was with the new FAQ and errata? Or do you feel even like you would like to have some level of restrictions?
We don't necessarily do these kinds of FAQs and erratas necessarily yet. In the main way, because it does have those 2 alienating factors we just talked about, right? But what I do is I write the missions, and my missions are not exactly like the Games Workshop ones. In particular, I very much like, and I've been doing this a little bit more lately, to lean a little more heavily on how many scoring units do you have within range of an objective. Like, for example, King of the Hill, where instead of it being whatever one Graveguard unit is with the closest to the center. They get to control it. No, it's how many scoring units do you have within range, and whoever has more gets to hold this objective.
Yeah.
Right. And fair enough. My current bugaboo that I really want to change is that if you have a cavalry unit or for everyone else in the world, an infantry unit that's not core, it just is pointless.
Yeah.
Like, and so the scoring has quickly turned into, okay, I take core units to score, as infantry and cavalry units to score. The rest of my army is nothing but characters and artillery and monsters. Because if they don't score, why the hell am I bringing Inner Circle Knights?
Yeah.
I'd rather have regular, worse Empire Knights, so at least they can get me the 50 points when they stand there. In fact, I brought 10 Ungor skirmishers in ambush, and they showed up on one section of the battle in my first game, and they got me 300 victory points, because for each round that they held one sector of the table, they got another 100 points. That was one of the missions that I had. So just that one unit scored 300 points when it only cost 57 to bring.
Yeah.
Right?
It's big returns. And I like that idea. I have spoken to you about that.
Player I was playing against.
Yeah.
So the one thing I'm trying to point out is the Empire player I was playing against had Outriders in the same sector, but they were in special, so they didn't score at all.
Didn't
they
score.
Were just there.
Yeah.
Hanging out. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. What were you saying?
So, I will look at the spread, the army spread, to sort of give an idea of what it brought to the comp, to the tournament, based on the TAT comp that we use. So just a quick rundown for everyone. So there was 3 Warriors of Chaos. I'm pretty sure they were all Grand Army, otherwise I would have written something different there. We had 3 Orcs and Goblins, 1 of each, 1 Grand Army, 1 Troll Horde, and 1 Nomadic War. 2 Tomb Kings, 1 was a Grand Army and 1 Royal Host. 3 Ogre Kingdoms, which was pretty cool. We haven't seen a lot of ogres at our tournaments.
Oh, that's different for you.
Yep. Yeah, there's one, Aaron's dad, he's the regular Ogre Kingdom player, but we brought 3 down. One of which was a Trav. He's quite highly ranked in our old world rankings for Australia, so he brought the Ogre Kingdoms down. 1 Vampire Counts, which was Aaron. 2 Chaos Dwarves, 1 Demons. Again, heavily towards the Forces of Destruction there, which I feel like in Australia has just always been the case. We've always sort of seen more bad armies, I suppose, than good. There was 4 Empire of Men, which again, Empire has always been very popular in Australia. 2 of those were Grand Army and 2 Knightly Orders, which was interesting to see because they were in the 2,400 point tier. 1 Wood Elf Army, 5 Bretonia, which 1 is a Grand Army, 2 Exiles, and 2 Crusades, and 1 High Elf, which was the War Host.
Well, this isn't too dissimilar to what I'm used to seeing. So what I'm used to seeing is, all of the Ravening Hordes armies are very popular.
Yep.
Then you've got people who are diehard holdouts for all of the Renegade factions, pretty much. I mean, Vampire Counts tends to have more interest because they actually do something on the tabletop. But it's not that uncommon because, for example, in our community, we don't have anyone who plays Vampire Counts. Like maybe one person who occasionally shows up. And he also plays Wood Elves and a few other things, so he rotates. And then we have a ton of Empire and a ton of Bretonia. Yes. The reason for this is, for one thing, I think that people just love Empire, and no matter how bad they are, they're just going to bring them. Because, again, they have 2 Knightly Orders here. Not uncommon, especially because you, in your comp system, you're giving them a lot of extra points. Knightly Order, I think the big problem with them is they're very one-note, so I'd be super curious to see if they were both White Wolf or not. I think White Wolf is an actual mega trap. No matter what you do to Empire, they don't outfight the enemy, so trying to just get Furious Charge, but you sacrifice your armor save, you sacrifice the good rare units you can bring in the other Knightly Orders. I think that White Wolf is a big mega trap, and it is very easy to counter.
So one was...
Move your units within 3 inches of them.
So one of them was Order of the Fiery Heart.
Yeah.
And the other one was Order of the Blazing Sun.
Okay, well, that's super interesting to hear about. So Blazing Sun, having every single model in your army have evasive is freaking amazing.
Yeah.
You also get to actually bring 2 cannons too. So you kind of feel like you're playing Bretonian Exiles without Pegasus Knights.
That's a good comparison.
Cool.
I like that.
Fiery Heart, okay, is actually a sleeper hit because the Grand Master and the Chapter Master getting to reroll ones to hit and wound at all times is a better buff than Furious Charge. Fight me, I'm not wrong. Okay, so if you want your Grand Master to actually do some damage, he should be Fiery Heart. It's better than White Wolf. And then, if you have those Inner Circle Knights, they have the same thing. So, ironically, you can bring the Priest of Sigmar, who now you don't need because the best buff is already going to be on the best troops.
Yeah.
And Fireheart also gets to bring the Flagellants in rare. I was really close to
that. The flagellants.
It would have gone way worse for me. I painted up 30 Flagellants recently. I
love how there's always people are always questioning on your channel how you say it. How you say flagellants?
Yeah, I call them flagellants. I don't know why I say it that way.
It's good.
Flagellants? Is that how other people say it?
I would say flagellants.
Okay.
But I'm from country Queensland in Australia, so I say a lot of things very weird.
And then seeing one Wood Elf and one High Elf is not super surprising to me because I think that the vast majority of Wood Elf players recently have been doing absolutely nothing that isn't, Orion's Wild Hunt with a lot of Wild Riders.
Yeah.
Newsflash: Wild Riders are just boar boys that are toughness 3.
Yeah.
Sorry to break it to you, but that's what they are. If you take Savage Orc boar boys, which no one even does anyway, and they have a ward save, they're toughness 4, they have a lot of attacks in the charge, just like Wild Riders. Wild Riders are not that great, and they're very easy to shoot to death.
Yeah.
So I don't understand it. I think that it's basically just, I brought Wild Riders and 2 dragons, and they guess that they're fast. That's the vibe.
Yeah. So, did you watch Close Order? He live streamed a GT, all 5 of his games, and he took Wood Elves. I'm not too sure.
No, I didn't see those particular live streams.
Yeah.
I know that,
he's obviously a very good player.
The alternative to doing what I just said is to be very, very particular with your skirmishers. Like, really anal and very careful with how you're positioning everything, and you just make one small mistake. Because honestly, one of the reasons why you don't see Wood Elves a lot in tournaments is because by game 3, your brain hurts. Even if you're playing a good army, you're really tired. It's so exhausting to do.
Playing, and you and I have spoken about it a lot. Playing a large amount of skirmishes is difficult for the person playing it, and also for the person against it. It's a very frustrating part of the game. Unfortunately, Games Workshop have just made the whole skirmisher rule
very common.
Yeah.
I do wonder if that's because of some kind of insecurities about thinking people were very used to AOS and they would just want to have things kind of spread out like that.
Maybe.
But when they make the skirmish rules so unclear, newsflash, the more unclear a rule is, the more people will try to use those in unclear areas to make it powerful. And skirmishers are a great example of that.
Yeah.
Depending on exactly how you read what the hell happens when they try to make shooting attacks, either none of them can hit the side of a barn because they give each other cover, or they just don't, and then they just fire 8 way more arrows than a regular unit.
Yeah. Without.
And then objectives. Skirmishers absolutely love objectives. They can just snake past blocks of troops and get to stand closer to it than anybody else. And by the time you turn around, I can just run past you. If you have a unit of 5 skirmishing infantry and they stand right in front of a enemy infantry unit, you can flee, rally, and then march next to them out of their line of sight. If they pivot to face you, you can then move again. They will literally never catch you ever.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah. The maneuverability is it's a bit. It's, as you said, you can bend the rule because there are no real clear rules for skirmishes. You can just bend the rules to make them broken. So, okay, well, predictions, because I've got the top 5 here from the weekend.
Sure, let's. You want me to predict?
You don't have to. I meant more. Do you think the top tier armies would be, as in like the S and the A tier? Do you think they'll be more the podium still? Or do you think there might be...
Well, it really depends on exactly what your missions were, but I'm assuming from the comp and everything that you're not crazy as me and trying to really put your thumb on the scales with the missions. So if you're doing mostly match play guide missions, The thing about the scenarios and the missions is that if you have cheap core units like 10, like a lot of people don't do this, right? You can take 10 regular goblins, make them skirmish with bows, and that's 30 points. And sure, they might impetuous charge off and get killed. They're 30 points. That's a single Wood Elf Archer is 11 points. Like,
Yeah.
and they can control a table quarter, they can stand on the strategic location, they can play Ring Around the Rosie in a circle around your baggage train. You know, a lot of the forces of a lot of the Ravening Hordes armies are just very, very good at playing the objectives.
Yeah.
Cheap.
So we did play, just match play. So like the first one was Strategic Locations 3 and Domination.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I don't have it here to put up on the screen. This game 2 was Baggage Train, Strategic Locations 2 and Domination. And game 3 was Domination, Special Feature, and Strategic Locations 2. Yeah, so just match play, standard.
Special feature. So you had like a herdstone, or no, like a tower in the middle or something.
Yeah, so special features like well, I know for our games that we're doing for FoolCon, the GT coming up, that is just like a piece in the middle of the table, and if you're within 6 inches, you get to roll on that special feature table.
Oh, the mission where it keeps changing what it wants its identity to be every time.
Yeah. Like you get,
okay.
Yeah.
One of my favorite missions out of the core rulebook is the Lonely Tower, because you put an actual tower in the middle.
Yes.
Only infantry can go inside it.
Yeah.
And it's like a fun, like you have a battle going around it, but you can have like a little unit that's just like guarding in there, and it's very good for elite troops, because if you have like a bunch of Sisters of Avalon or something, they can get in there and they have stubborn and they can just fire their arrows out, and if anyone comes to attack them, they have strikes first. But, so in other words, it's a mission that does actually favor elite soldiers, where the vast majority of them are just, how many random idiots can I pile on?
Yeah. So, yes, what do you think?
Oh, looking at this, I would say it's just going to be Wars of Chaos, Orcs and Goblins, and Bretonnians. Top 3.
Yeah.
That's my guess.
So I've got the top 5 I've put up on the screen.
Okay. Well, the Wood Elf player did very well. Interesting.
So Jay, he's our resident. He's our very good painter. So he goes to pretty much every tournament, and he's got a very, very beautiful Wood Elf army. I'm going to have to get him to send me a photo so that every time we talk about it on the channel, we can show people, because
you had 3 people who went 3-0. How many players did you have at this event?
26.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So, top 5 for everyone listening. As Evan just said, Wood Elves was Jay number 1. We do run off the battle point system. So Jay did get a 1 win and 1 loss, though his battle points were the highest, 46. So he obviously had 2 very big wins.
So he probably got 20-0, 6-14, and then 20-0 again.
Something like that, I would think. Yeah, something around that. Tomb Kings came second, Nathaniel. So you can see we got 3 in a row, for those that can see on the screen, that got the 3 wins. Nathaniel had the same battle points as Jay. He got 46 battle points, but then it came down to the overall victory points.
Yeah. 3,
the Exiles. No sort of surprise there. Ryan's a good player as well. He normally plays Orcs and Goblins. This is the first time I've...
Wait, are these the victory points that they earned in total in the 3 games, or are those the amount that they earned more than their opponents?
Yes, the difference more than.
So that this is the sum of the differential.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Interesting.
Okay. Ryan with the Exiles. Then 4th was Rufus with the Crusade, Errantry Crusade. And then number 5 was Angus with Empire. And Angus is a Masters player. He plays, he always plays Empire. I haven't sort of seen him play anything else, so he's very good at playing his Empire. And he sticks.
Yeah, faction specialist is a very big advantage.
Yeah,
Unlike me, if you stick to one army and play a lot, you'll get.
He stays very loyal to them. So, yeah, that sort of rounded out the top 5, which I thought was very interesting. It was good, really good to see a C tier, 2,300 points for the Wood Elves. And Jay, I believe that was Jay's first win or top of the podium that I'm aware of in the last couple of years.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Well, it's also interesting that you guys went with battle points first, and then the tiebreaker was victory points.
Yes.
After.
Yeah.
And then win-loss draw, I assume, was almost like a third or afterthought type.
It's just it doesn't.
We usually do.
Yeah.
Reverse of that. Yeah.
And I've always been felt that potentially. I mean, yeah, and again, Aaron and I have spoken about this a lot. There are pros and cons to sort of both concepts, to going purely off, say, win-loss draw. Yeah.
Right.
I don't.
Well, for example, Ryan got 6,000 victory points, which is a lot more than the top 2 players.
Yeah.
But he had one fewer battle point than them, which is very interesting. And he was also 3-0. I mean, it just feels like I think that battle points, I do actually just kind of wonder what the point of them is a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Especially because when the battle point system, it's just an abstraction of victory points, and it's still a differential. So you started at 10-10.
Yeah.
We both do nothing all game. We stayed at 10-10. If I walk forward and my whole army gets wiped out, it's a 20-0, and I got 0 points, where now I suddenly had lost points that I would have gotten otherwise. This sometimes creates situations where you've got like a Beastman list versus a Tomb Kings list, and both players realize if I move forward, I lose. So they just don't do anything.
Yes. Yep. 100%.
I don't find this super exciting at all. I mean, I'm very much the kind of person who's going to say, I would rather us like roll dice and see what happens, right?
Yeah. And that is
so
the big
many elements that go into this.
Yeah. That is the big negative of it, is that exactly like you said there, you're already starting with 10 battle points. So by doing stuff in the game, you potentially lose battle points for yourself.
It's similar to like if the Warhammer game was poker, and every time you anteed up, you're risking losing the chips you came in
with. Yeah, that's a really good comparison. I like that.
Yeah. But you can't win the event if you go 10-10 for 3 games in a row. But this also means that if you fight a really hard opponent, you might, especially partway through the game, I got a slight advantage. I'm going to run away now. Right. But if you focus on the battle point system, then no, you have to go for these big wins. And that also means that you're going to incentivize people to take the kinds of lists that get big wins because they have a lot of damage output. So it could be all Viletide spams, or it could be really powerful Pegasus Knight. I was going to say Phoenix Guard. Nope. Pegasus Knight Death Stars. No,
definitely not Phoenix Guard. Definitely not.
Jesus Christ, those guys need to go remember how their word save works.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I was just thinking about on that too. Like I feel like the battle points sometimes. You were talking about gun lines earlier, and I feel like with the round times, because our rounds are normally 2.5, maybe 2 hours and 45.
Okay. Yep.
Sometimes I feel that that type of, when going off battle points and a time restriction like that, it sometimes favours a gun line, because a gun line can get points early and apply pressure.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
That was always my thought about it. I was always like, well, it sort of favours, like when I build a list, even myself, like I, obviously I only play high elves, so, but even when I like looking at combat heavier lists, I still feel like I've got to have some level of range damage in there to apply some sort of pressure or to get some sort of points if my opponent chooses not to engage.
Right. Well, I will say that no matter what you're doing, I think that your list should always include 10 guys with strength 3 bows if you have nothing else, because there's a lot of units in this game that can be very scary, but if you just have some level of things that can shoot at them, and magic missiles, you can't be everywhere at once. Sometimes magic missiles are short range, you can't reach that far out, or they have high magic resistance, or they can automatically dispel you. So if you just have 10 Ungors with short bows, sometimes you wipe out an entire unit of Outriders, of like 6 Outriders by the end of the game, because it's just hit on fours, wound on fours, and then they have a pretty piddly save, and then you just start taking them down, right? Um, that's one such example.
Yeah.
And that's why in all my high elf lists, I'm always bringing the archers. I know that even, to be honest, I think that besides my hatred of skirmishers, I think that you get more bang for your buck with regular longbow wielding archers than the strength 4 warbow wielding um, woodsmen, because they are a lot more points. And then you have a strength 4 AP 0 bow instead of armor bane, which can potentially come in handy. And a lot of the targets you're shooting bows at anyway either don't have that high of toughness or don't have that much armor, so you don't necessarily need strength 4 or whatever against that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'd be really interesting to look at these lists. I'm assuming you did that before the event.
We did do that before the event. Did you want to have a look?
Well, I mean, you could also just give me the vague idea. Like, for example, was the Wood Elf list 2 dragons and all Wild Riders, or was it something else?
No. Stand by. I will.
Okay.
What can I do? I just go. Stop.
I mean, Bretonnian lists are not that exciting to me because their army didn't get a lot of support in 7th and 8th edition, or any. So they don't have that many units to call upon. I mean, the main decision you have as a Britannia player is, do I take 2 Pegasus Knights units, or do I, soften my list by bringing anything else? Like, I mean, Questing Knights are pathetic. They're like Empire Knights with great weapons and stubborn are just better than Questing Knights, because at least the Empire Knights have countercharge.
Yeah.
And then there's Grail Knights, who are actually pretty reasonably priced. It's just that, like, by comparison to a Pegasus Knight who just still has the strength 4, has Furious Charge, so they still have plenty of attacks when they charge, which is all the time, and they have Skirmish and Fly. It's like there's no niche where the Grail Knights do more damage on the charge. So if you're taking them, why are you taking them? And Grail Knights cost more points per wound, which is kind of the critical math there, than Pegasus Knights do. Pegasus Knights are not 80 points each. So Grail Knights are more points per wound than them. What I really, and this is why you can say, let's give one army more points, another army less points. Like, what you really need is to find all the places where there's these absolutely just no-brainer decisions and make it so that it's actually an interesting decision. So if Pegasus Knights started at strength 3, then you would say, okay, well, maybe they don't hit as hard as Grail Knights. Maybe I might need to bring the Grail Knights for anything tough. The difference between strength 5 and strength 6 is very, very big, especially against the kind of targets that are most important to hurt, like the toughness 6 monsters. So I think that there are certain things where if you just removed a single keyword, like, for example, they did absolutely cut the knees out from under the Sky Lanterns, right? That's what you had to do. If you made the Sky Lantern 400 points, but left all of its rules, the game would still be very unfun. It's way better to just fix the number of rules and sugarcoating you did than to try to change the points, in my experience.
Yeah. Okay. That's good input. I like it. So this is Jay's
Next card were 5 points
list here. I'll have to move it a little bit.
Still would just die a lot, right? Okay, yes, we see this list here. So okay, so he's got a stack. He's got a Stag Lord. He has 2 Stag Lords. There are no dragons here. Very interesting. Oh, he has 2 Shadow Dancers as well. Wow.
This is 2,300.
I'm just befuddled.
What'd you say?
I'm just befuddled by all of this.
No pun intended.
I will say, though, that Lore of the Wilds and Lore Familiar, I see what you're doing, because one of the best magic missiles in the game is the Fury of Athaloran. You basically just say, hey, that unit over there, they take D3+1 Ogre Blade hits from a Duke. Like, it's freaking wild, that spell. And Wood Elves in particular really struggle with high strength shooting. There's several games that I played where I'm the other person's army is toughness 4 or 5, and I can fire for 3 or 4 turns of shooting with my arrows, and I will just kill nobody. Nothing falls on the other team. So having the Lord of the Wilds guy is very critical, I would say. It's very interesting. We have Deepwood Scouts as well. Arcane Bodkins, I think, are on my grade guard. I would say that's usually the arrows I go with now. Multiple Blade Rider units with True Flight. I mean, when you're going to be moving around a lot, because that's what True Flight is, I assume that's quite useful, especially if people are very strict about how cover works. True Flight's very good.
Yeah. So yeah,
Monster Hunter Tapestry on Sisters of the Thorn. So this must be like a bunker unit for one of the Glade Lords or something. Like that's crazy, man. Interesting.
yeah. I'm not too sure how Jay plays it specifically.
What I would say is that this is someone who's a very, very good player because I don't know what this list does, right? That's when I'm looking at it and I don't know what it does, and I know that they won the game or won 2 out of their 3 games. That means this player is very, very good.
Yeah. As I was saying, Jay goes to pretty much every tournament. I always see his name there, and he's always thereabouts. So perhaps the first tournament being where he's got the extra points now with his list, and he always plays. Again,
So he has 2,400 with this list.
23.
Okay, 2,300.
23.
Okay.
So maybe that maybe this was like I said, Jay is a good player, and he's always thereabouts on sort of with the podium, and I haven't had a look to sort of see if he has podiumed recently, but maybe the 2,300 was just enough to just give him be able to sort of push through to the top. Gave him just enough sort of.
By the way, I think that if you're willing to use those really ancient models or come up with some 3D prints of them, 27 points for just a little dart that you just throw at the other person like they're a bunch of giant rats in Skaven is very, very useful if you're a good player.
Yeah. So congratulations, Jay, by the way, and everyone sort of on the list that for the tournament over the weekend. I sort of said that before we just got into the nitty gritty, and but it was yeah.
I mean, I'm very curious about the Empire list as well because, like I was saying, I think Bretonnia, it's pretty clear what you're doing. You have a very powerful character builds, but there's still only a few of those. You have a very powerful unit in the Pegasus Knights. And if you play Exiles, you can bring cannons, which, I mean, why wouldn't you?
Yes.
You can also bring Outcast Wizards that do either Demonology or Dark Magic. Either way, oh my god, that is freaking wild on Pegasus Knights if you get Battle of stuff.
I can have a quick.
Or even on if you a lot of Bretonnia players recently have been taking 11 or 12 like Knights of the Realm in an unbelievably massive triangle, and they just do Battle Lust, and then it's like you have no idea how many lances are attacking now. Like so many.
Yeah. I mean their damage output, yeah, it's insane as it is. So I'm just getting
with Tomb Kings, it's a similar situation with you've got like Boshabti, you've got just bricks of skeletons that never die, you've got dragon options, you have Necrosphinxes, you have artillery.
So this is
there's plenty of things that are good. I think Tomb Kings are one of the best armies in the game at being honestly pretty well-rounded. You can kind of go in lots of directions. The only problem is that a few of their units are either ridiculously cheap and a few of them are too expensive. Like the Bone Giant and the War Sphinx are so expensive for having no reason to exist, and the Necrosphinx is ridiculously cheap. It doesn't make any sense.
So I'm just getting the ASB's list up, the Empire list for you to have a look at.
Empire, on the other hand, getting 6,000 victory points in a 3-round event is pretty impressive to me. All right, so he got to bring 2,200 points, which, by the way, I mean that's fine. But when your army's overcosted, 200 extra points isn't always that much, right? So we've got a BSB with Razor Banner. Okay, so this is a shooting list because the only reason you have a BSB with Razor Banner in Empire is to give a bunch of units that are going to shoot you armor vein. There's no reason he's not going into a melee unit with that.
Yeah,
that's not happening. We've got a General of the Empire on a Griffin who's very, very cheap. I do like the Imperial Griffin. I know that the regular Griffin is a little bit cheaper, but I like the Imperial Griffin more. He's got the twice plus armor and the white cloak. Those are kind of just items that honestly are just really reasonable, and they have no reason to like.
Oh. Right, sorry everyone. Bit of technical issues there. So, you were talking about the twice.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. you sort of got up to the Prehistoric and then
Right, right. This is interesting because he's kind of doing the Nuln thing, but he's just not doing it in Nuln, so I assume he gets the extra 100 or 200 points for the army, but it is very similar to Nuln in a lot of ways, where you're just taking an Outrider unit and putting so many buffs on this one Outrider unit that it can just shoot God. So you start with the Razor Banner. Outriders can't take banners of their own. Give them a Razor Banner. That's a lot of Armor Bane. Then you give them the Priest, so the Priest gives them multi wounds too. Sure. The Dark Magic can lower the toughness of the thing you're trying to shoot, and so can Demonology, actually. Oh no, I'm sorry. Necromancy is the other one that can do that. I was expecting that because I often very much run Necromancy as my Empire list for lots of reasons, but Curse of Years is actually pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Dark Magic, on the other hand, yeah, I mean, I guess you just have a Pegasus guy who flies around and tries to give the Demigryph Knights, a one toughness lower thing to shoot at, while also giving Battle Lust to the Demigryphs, and then you're hoping that's enough damage output, basically. The Demonology Wizard has the Magic Missile for summoning, which is basically the best thing that Empire can get as far as shooting people goes. A lot of Power Scrolls, which, by the way, I mean, when you force yourself to fit them in, are very useful for doing damage. I mean, I think that's quite critical. And yeah, Lore Familiar on a level 3 Demonology Wizard is something that I've seen a lot of, because Steed of Shadows,
if
you have infantry troops, it can be very, very important. Demonic Vessel, if you're trying to put them in a block, can be. I think that doesn't work in Empire. Trying to be in the block when you're a very, very puny wizard is, and as soon as you die, the spell goes away. Doesn't work. But we don't see. I guess we have drilled state troops, so the only thing he could be doing is trying to do Steed of Shadows to throw some state troops up behind you.
Yes, and Angus does. Yeah,
doing the summoning.
Angus and I had a game about a year ago at a GT, and that's what. Yeah, he just Steed of Shadowed the big. Well, I shouldn't say big block, but the block of state troops.
18 toughness 3 models is not a big block.
No, it was incorrect.
36 inches is the full width of the short end of the table. So if they start on one side, they can end up behind you.
Yeah,
very easily.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to screen for that. It is possible though, if you have, like, for example, if I had a single boar chariot, or a razor gore or something, I could just leave those facing basically my rear or my flanks. And as soon as, I could just deny you any place to land. But it is a lot of work for your opponent to have to try to figure out where you could potentially land and try to guard all of those spots, right?
Yeah.
Especially because you've got a shooting threat. So someone's got to come towards you. I will say, though, that 7 Outriders are cheap. 7 Outriders can die to a lot of things. So I don't know how you keep these things alive. And I preach constantly about how if you have a 24-inch range shooting unit, you are so often at long range, because if anyone's within 12 inches of you, you're probably dead already. So, because you're in combat, right? Or you have to move because you're too close, and now you have to run away.
Yeah.
If elves have like the 30-inch longbow, and then you can actually stand further away, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And a mortar, no cannon, mortar. Wow. I mean, this is definitely a list that I think it feels almost like ingrown might be the word for it. Like, you have played Empire and only Empire for 2 years, and you have gotten 3 things that work. So you took those 3 things and basically nothing else. Interesting.
So he did say in the list review, because we had Angus on for when we did the list reviews for the tournament, and he brought the mortar along because of he wanted it to like, if he was talking about, if you just take a cannon, it's just like one cannonball that's, normally trying to do multiple wounds to something big. Whereas he said if you got the mortar, it's kind of like you can shoot at a large unit of infantry, or you could still do damage to something that's like a dragon. Yeah. Multiple purposes. And he does talk about that with a lot of his list building, is that he always tries to add something into his, like if he's bringing a unit into his list, he wants it to have multiple uses. It's just something that he likes to.
I understand that.
Yeah. Which I'm sort of thinking, well,
he resisted the urge to take 2 steam tanks, because with 2,200 you can do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate the steam tank. I think it's garbage, but I mean.
Well, he's only got one, so yeah, that was a bit of a a look at the lists.
Yeah. But
Um,
those are the ones I think that are interesting because I think that when you go to Bretonia and you go to Tomb Kings, I mean, you can look at it, but it's kind of hard to mess up
yeah,
if you're trying to take the best stuff.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Empire and Wood Elves, you got to try real hard, and you have to be a very good player with a lot of nonsense, which both of these are. These are two very good players, a lot of nonsense lists, and hey, both of them got 2-1-0, so both of them lost one game.
Yeah, yeah, and I would assume by not very much potentially, or so.
Well, according to the battle points, yeah, probably they got. Actually, yeah, that's a good point. They probably got 9.
They could have just
something like that.
Yeah, 9-11, and then had a couple of big wins. So
yeah.
Well, that was a bit of a look at our tournament, the Battle of the Bastards, and a bit of a look at how the TAP comp, or they used the Tavern comp for that one, which allowed special characters, although no special characters were taken. And how it's sort of...
Well, there's no dwarves. Every single dwarf player brings Belagar.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But that would be, again, the gun line. The gun line meta is somewhat low in our area, I would say. It's not super common, so heavy shooting lists.
I've seen it so much here, I guess, is interesting because you guys seem to have it so little of it, which is weird. Even the Wood Elf list had the 2 Shadow Dancers in the same block of War Dancers. I think that both Empire and the Wood Elf list you showed me, if I just had a couple of guys with bows, they might actually be in trouble because a lot of those units are toughness 3s. And even if they're skirmishing, I just have to have enough arrows and they're going to go down.
Yeah. But that's, I guess our meta does not have a lot of shooting.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was not like you're sort of hedging your bets that you're not going to come up against. Yeah, sort of shooting.
Well, even the Bretonia players, they often take 11 peasants with longbows and skirmish so that they can just fire arrows and stand next to the objective. And if you kill them, they're 55 points.
Yeah. So yeah, final sort of thoughts on our... Do you like the idea of the comp, or do you sort of still think you would prefer no comp versus?
I'm a salty sailor. I don't think that anything I saw from those 2 particular lists looks like... I didn't see any of the things that I hate. The things that I hate are very, very simple. Either you put 1,200 points into the single unit, or your entire army flies. And so if you get an unlucky opponent, you just fly away from them and kill 2 or 3 of their things and win by that. Now, maybe we don't see those 2 archetypes here because you're focusing on battle points instead of win-loss-draw. If you focus on win-loss-draw, maybe all you got to do is win by 100 points and then do that 3 times and you're golden, right?
Yeah.
If you focus on battle points, maybe you have to do stuff that actually kills things. So everyone's focused on damage, right? And then the third thing I don't like is I have a million wizards who cast the same spell. I really think that it was a huge problem that in this edition they said, no, wizards can get the same lore and roll the same spell and they can both have it. And the reason why they did that, right, is because they didn't like the idea that you would have a level 2 wizard of lore of, shadows or lore of the fire or whatever, and he would roll and he would get 2 of the bad spells. Level 2, he's going to go eat up 2 spells, and then the level 4 guarantees he gets all the other ones because he can't get the same ones as the level 2, so now he gets all the rest. The problem with that is that now you have the reverse issue, is I have 5 wizards who all have Vile Type. Why is that interesting? And this is exactly the same problem as I have 5, Jade Lancer units that all have the Ring of Jet.
Yeah, that all have...
especially because
Unquiet
you have spam of any kind. Like, why is it okay... Or why is it not okay to bring 2 steam tanks, but it is okay to have 5 rings of jet? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Poor game. Well, yeah, it was just different. They just... Exactly what you said. They just tried to move away from 8th, where... Yeah. Because I guess the thing with 8th is that because you couldn't take the same spell, you would manipulate how you rolled for spells so that you could try and get your level 4 to get the spells that you wanted.
Right. And what I'm saying is you could still not do that, which, by the way, I already just really, really don't like how there seems to be a war between the players and Games Workshop on, well, here's what the player wants. I want my wizard to be able to pick all of their spells all the time. Games Workshop wants you to have no consistency on whether you're going to show up to this battle with your pants around your ankles because you didn't roll Steed of Shadows. And what we get is in 8th edition you had, okay, I'll bring multiple wizards so I can kind of guarantee it.
Yeah.
In this edition, it's okay, so now no arcane item is ever worth it because I just have to buy the lore familiar on every single army I play.
Yeah.
Unless if I have Hag Tree Fetish or, some item that's so overwhelmingly broken, I'll take that. And who cares what the rest of my spells are? Because all I care about is one spell being a nuke, right?
Yeah.
So they could fix this by saying you can't cast the same spell more than once per turn. You can have as many on wizards as you want. You just can't cast it more than once.
Yeah.
I'd fix it.
Well, yeah, I guess that's and there are plenty of comp systems out there that restrict the individual things, whether it be a spell or a unit or So,
but then the question is, do people agree on which ones are problematic or which ones are the core theme of the army?
And that's when it becomes very controversial, doesn't it? I guess.
Well, what if someone said, okay, if you play Orion's Wild Hunt, you can't have more than 12 Wild Riders in total because too many Wild Riders is spam and they're too strong, goddammit. And then the other person goes, have you tried playing them? Like, you're lucky I'm taking these guys. They're freaking good, Like, you see what I'm saying? So I think that obviously becomes a problem. However, if your alternative to all of this is say, comp is terrible, let's not do any of that, let's only listen to what Games Workshop wants. Games Workshop wants is for you to buy new plastic.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, they're not necessarily the the neutral arbiter, right?
Hmm.
And that's my summer on comp. You're screwed no matter what. There you go.
Well, it's been good, like, to talk about it, because it's been something that we've, in our local scene, we've been working. Well, the guys have been working constantly at it because they wanted to.
Just to be clear, I could see you did a lot. This team did a lot of effort to get to where you're at.
Yeah, they have. They really wanted to just change up our scene because it was definitely towards even like the start of last year. Our tournaments were competitively very, very tilted towards the heavy hitting meta, and so they really wanted to sort of start to just change that up a little bit and bring some more variety of armies, particularly from the Renegades. And so that's what their focus was. Their focus was just kind of, how do we get a bigger spread of armies? How do we let people still take what they want to take? And how do we make every army at least be able to sort of compete on the battlefield?
One thing that makes people want to bring an army is when they have some kind of rules that are interesting. So if, Troll Horde gets to reroll their regen saves, oh, that's interesting. Oh, Vampire Counts, now you can regen your crumbles. Oh, that's interesting. It's not, I had 100 extra points so I could fit one more Vargeist. It's usually something dynamic changed. And that, or it could also be, this one enemy army that always beats me no matter what, that won't be allowed anymore. So now I'll bring the thing that I like.
Yeah.
So these are the kinds of things that tend to actually lead to people playing different lists, as opposed to, I think, that having different numbers of points. I think different numbers of points, in the best case scenario, lets people bring something that couldn't quite fit before.
Yeah.
For example, the 2 Steam Tank list doesn't fit at 2,000 points. It seems very deliberate that it doesn't fit. If you let them have 2,100 points, now they can do it. Cool.
Yeah.
They're 2,150.
One thing I will say from a personal perspective, what sort of makes me, what I really enjoyed about 8th versus the old world now, and this is me speaking purely as a high elf player.
The most wrong done. You went from eating so freaking good, like you are a first-class citizen.
Yeah.
Nazim has welcomed you into the Cloud District. To you are you're not gutter trash, but you are living in a trailer park and you are worried about what day your paycheck is in the bank account. That's where you went.
I would say, like, I wouldn't say, because I feel like in the old world the high elves are still competitive. Like, you can still take 2-star dragons and lots of sisters, and you can still
boring
compete. And that's exactly it. Like what I really liked about 8th Ed High Elves, yeah, they were overpowered in areas, but I could take lots of different lists and still be competitive with the same army.
Yeah.
Like, I had, you could take like a magic heavy list where you sort of just took some big infantry blocks and a couple of good mages. You could take some light mages and you could do the damage. You could take a cav list, a cav heavy list. You could take a Phoenix heavy list. Like even though monsters weren't that great, Phoenixes were pretty good. You could just take like 3 Phoenixes, ridden Phoenixes.
Well, Cathay, Bretonia, and all of the Rabbiting Hordes get to do that.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I think that there's 6 armies that get to have quite a lot of variety, and the rest of them have one competitive build that you're going to make a few sacrifices to remove some of the competitive stuff to put some of your own flair on, but you're making it worse with very little added player agency when you do that.
Yeah.
And the other armies, the main 6 that are quite versatile and do a lot of flexibility without much problem.
Yeah, and that would be my personal sort of perspective on it. I don't necessarily need. I don't like when I look at high elves. Like I don't need them to have a ton of special rules anymore. But it could simply just be, they're competitive now because, maybe just the points adjustments and some, you can fit some better things into your list to make them a little bit more competitive. Or whereas like now I just feel like you've got a pigeonhole and you've got to have at least 1 star dragon in your list and at least some sisters in your list.
The main elf problem is that the spells that used to make I'm toughness 3, strength 3, but I'm going to do some cool stuff, they don't exist. There is no spell that makes all of your arrows strength 7 because you have or all of your spears strength 9 because you have
Mind Razor.
That spell doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, we gained a lot. We got movement spells, which are very cool in the sense that they can teleport units around. They can allow characters to teleport in and out of combat, that kind of thing. That adds a lot of dynamism to this game that was totally lacking in 8th, where 8th edition's main problem was that the movement game was just, I chaff your units, and eventually our 2 Death Stars belly bump each other in the center of the table until one of them wins. And that's it.
Yeah.
Because anything that is not a Death Star just lost to the Death Star, so it just sat there. And you pretty much just had chaff and Death Stars and artillery, and that was it. And the characters all had to be on foot and joined to the units because, cannons and things would just wipe out anyone who wasn't in the unit. So we definitely got more dynamic play than that. That was every game was just, sure, you could bring lots of different lists, but it was just the same thing.
Yeah.
The Death Star bumped yours and we just sit there.
Yeah. I didn't mean to sort of compare 8th and the old world in its entirety. I was more just saying...
in its entirety.
I was more just saying, like, that what interests me in taking an army, like if I look at an army, and that was exactly it, right? Like if I'm very time poor, but if I was to look at buying an army tomorrow, I've always wanted a Beastman army, but it would be Beastman because you can play somewhat of a variety and still enjoy the competitive side of the game. But I mean,
yeah, definitely.
5.
I think that
5 Vile Tides seems pretty cool too. So
yes, but I think that my Vestigore unit is better than most things High Elves can do.
Yeah,
without their dragons. If you have so just try making a High Elf list that has no dragon in it. See how that goes for you.
It sucks. Right? I've done it lots.
Yeah.
You gotta have
because like you can make a prince and you can make him like Order of the Phoenix or whatever, where he's a Phoenix Guard man. You can join some Phoenix Guard. And what do you get for being Order of the Phoenix Guard man? You get a 6-up ward versus non-magical attacks. And a halberd.
That's not a normal halberd. It's not as good as a normal.
Oh yeah, it's worse than a normal halberd.
It's worse than a normal halberd.
Don't get the
don't
anymore.
Don't forget that. No. So it's been good. Yeah, it's been good to get your input on that side of things on our comp.
I think next time we're on together, we'll rewrite the elf book.
Well, you guys have, and I forgot to mention at the start of the video, jump on, and for those who haven't checked out the Old World Legends channel, jump on there. I'll put a link in the description. Evan and Mike just did a great elf video, which I haven't watched all of it. I've watched about 15 minutes, but I'll get around to watching the rest of it because I really want to hear Mike's thought on the elves because I know Evan's thought on elves.
We have very incompatible interests. Our only interests overlap at vampire counts, and I'm mostly interested in the actual vampires, where Mike is more of a generalist guy, and I'm like, it's even then I'm playing vampire counts, and I'm just lamenting that the vampire lord is just an elf, but worse. So an elf with crumble. Try that on for size.
So yeah, it's been good. It's been great to have you on, Evan. I think we've been trying to tee up another chat for a while, so it's been good to line that up. We were speaking to before the video, Evan and Mike, the legends, they've got working towards a team event.
Yeah.
So that would be really cool. That's something that I think is a very cool concept that we haven't really tried yet in our local area or even sort of discussed. So it'll be very interesting to watch you guys closely and see sort of how you set that up and what you run for that, whether you follow the WTC stuff or put your own spice on it.
Yeah, I mean, because we have so many different communities around, it wouldn't necessarily be like, okay, we're going to change up things and spice things up, because some of the communities that are coming from San Diego or coming from Riverside, like, if we're not all playing the same game, it's going to be a turnoff for them.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And that's, especially for a teams event where we do have people coming from different areas, we don't necessarily want people to feel alienated. So that's for sure. But teams, if people don't know, you kind of have like a 5 players versus 5 other players, but you still play against one person on the other person's team. But the pairings are not based on like who has more battle points. It's based on like a pairing process of trying to deliberately get yourself paired against someone you might have a good chance of doing well against. Or if you end up in a really bad pairing, well, fine if you lose, just try not to lose 20-0, right? Try not to lose too bad, and then allow the rest of your teammates to hopefully win their game.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks again, Evan. And thanks everyone for watching. As I said, link in the description to the Old World Legends. If for those who haven't checked them out, I'm assuming most people probably have stumbled upon them now. But yeah, it's been great.
According to you, I'm pretty popular. I don't know.
Yeah, very. Well, you guys get you get a lot of good content out there, and I think a lot of the communities worldwide sort of enjoy your perspective on the Warhammer game, or the Old World game. So, thanks again, guys. We'll see you for the next video.
Stay legendary.
Yes, I like it.
All right.
Thanks, Evan.